What's going on, YouTube? Northeast Ohio Sports Cards back for another video, and today we're doing our little weekend review. So a lot of this stuff I have talked about in previous videos this week, so some of the stuff we're going to touch on quickly, and then I have a few other just random little things to kind of show you guys. So the first thing we'll talk about is I did the last video that I did was the SGC update that they posted. Their president, Peter, went on Cardboard Chronicles and did a follow-up interview last night. And he said about what I would say I expected him to say. I would recommend going to check that out. It's about 40 minutes long. If you were interested in SGC grading, it is worth watching. I don't know that it changed any of my previous thoughts. I still believe the reason that they're doing this is to attempt to slow down submissions so they could get caught up. He obviously did not come out and say that in that interview, but just reading between the lines, I still believe that's their whole point of changing the service levels around, which is fine. They needed to do something. They need to get caught up, and then they need to rebuild trust with most of the community. So we'll see what happens with that, but if you're interested in that, I would recommend going and checking out that Cardboard Chronicles interview that they posted last evening. The second thing, we've talked about this on previous videos, but this is the Mookie Betts Topps Update PSA 10 that Gary V showed off on Instagram, and then it went crazy. So just for the quick week stats, you can see the chart just goes straight on up. It started the week out at a low on average of around $230, and it ended the week just south of 600, and is still on the rise. It's slowly creeping up. It's looking like it might be dipping back down just a little bit, but yeah, this card is on a rocket ship, and I don't see it slowing down unless he would get hurt or something in season. So that's the only baseball one I believe I have this week, but I'm not going to spend a bunch of time on this. We've talked about this card multiple times already this week, but I just kind of wanted to give you guys the 1 week recap on this card. The next one, another thing that we have spoken about, but I felt that it was worth bringing up again, was the old Bol Bol. The hype train continues. He played pretty good on Saturday night, nowhere near as big as Wednesday, and the market kind of burned itself out, I think, on him on Wednesday, but it did establish a new norm. So this is his Prism Raw Silver. And you can see it was, going for around $50, give or take, and it had been trending up. There'd been a lot of hype around him for a while. The last week or two, a lot of people, if you follow closely on like the Facebook groups and stuff, the buying groups, that sort of thing, you could kind of see where the buzz is going, because you'll see a lot of like wanna buy posts, or I'm looking for, or show me your lots of X player, and you see a lot of the same names repeated over and over again in a given time frame. It kind of gives you an idea that there's a boiling clamor for that player in the market. And that was happening already for the last week or so, I'd say at least, maybe 2 weeks. And then Wednesday happened. He played extremely well, looked good. Twitter was ablaze for all the NBA guys. Like, just the whole thing lit the match, and it just exploded. So we talked about this already earlier this week, but I just kind of wanted to show how the rest of the week played out. So it spiked way up, obviously, when he played. Topped out at around $125 for his raw silver. Then it started to dip back down again, and has now leveled off just north of 100. And I expect it to stay there for a while. It may creep up a little bit, but my guess is it's going to stay relatively stable unless he goes crazy again. Now the Nuggets are starting to get some players back. That was part of the reason why he was playing, was because they had a lot of guys test positive, and then we're not in the bubble yet, so he was kind of forced to play. I don't know if that's still going to be the case. The big one that I'm keeping an eye on there, that the rest of the hobby is, and this is another guy that if he gets in and plays well, he is going to go crazy with prices, is Michael Porter Jr. The hobby loves Michael Porter Jr. I am intrigued by Michael Porter Jr. myself. I have a few of his stuff, but nothing crazy. I have like some Prism base, raw, and that's about it. I have like 3 or 4 cards of his, nothing crazy. But everyone is intrigued by Michael Porter Jr., and he's another one that you constantly see want to buy posts for. If he comes out and plays, he was out of the bubble. He just got there. If he comes out and plays well in one of these next couple scrimmage games, his stuff will go nuts like Bol Bol's did, because he is extremely popular. So let's just scroll down to the chart real quick here. So yeah, like I said, starting average was around $50, and now the ending average for the week is around 150 or around 110, just above 110, and it's kind of been sitting around there. But most of that all happened within a 3-hour period, which is absolutely bonkers. I was talking on the Sports Card Investor Discord last night and said, if prices fluctuate like this on Bol Bol for a scrimmage game, what is going to happen when A, real games start up, and B, playoff games start up in this current market? Is this behavior where someone goes crazy going to roll into the remaining games left? And I don't think anyone knows. I've speculated for a while, and I've made some videos on it, that I think it's going to be almost like day trading stocks, where every little thing swings values like crazy, especially on these cheaper guys. On a Luka, when his card's already $1,100, it's a little harder to swing the market, because only certain people can afford that card. On Bol Bol, his base raw optic and stuff like that was sub $10. That's open for everyone to get in on the action. So I think anyone lower end like that plays really well is going to see dramatic swings in value. Let's hop over, because this kind of goes in line with that, and then we'll switch back to football for a minute. Rui's played pretty good in his first 2 scrimmage games. He's going to get a ton of run because they just don't have a lot of guys. But it's been quiet. For whatever reason, he's not getting the buzz that Bol Bol has been. Now, he is getting some buzz, but nowhere near Bol Bol levels. So the chart you see here is his silver prism raw, and then his base raw. So the interesting thing here is that his silver prism is up 120% on the week, to over $100 now, which is right in line with Bol Bol's. This has been a much more gradual rise. The interesting thing is that the base raw prism is lagging quite a bit behind. It's sitting around $15 to $20 and is only up 40-some% on the week. So I think his stuff is going to keep creeping. And if you want in, I think now's the time, especially on that base Prism Raw or any of his other stuff. I say it a million times, Prism Silver and Prism Base lead the charge. Everything else follows. The Prism Silver right now is leading the charge. It looks like the Prism Base is starting to follow. So if you're interested in him, I would not wait. And it might be decent to look at some of his non-Prism stuff if it hasn't seen the same rise yet. But Rui is up 120% on the week on his base Prism, or Prism Raw. And he has been playing quite well, and he's going to continue to get a ton of run. So we're going to switch over to football real quick, and then we'll switch back to basketball. So this is an interesting one. I don't follow the football market quite as close as basketball. Same with baseball. But I was going through some stuff last night, preparing to record this video this morning, and I noticed that this card right here, it's a 2012 Russell Wilson PSA 10 rookie, went from around, let's say $500 to $600 to $1,500 like overnight. And I couldn't figure out why. I mean, nothing's really happened. Yeah, they traded for like a safety yesterday, and he's a good player, Jamal Adams, but it's not like, you know what I mean? I don't think that swings the needle that much on their team for the upcoming season. So I was a little perplexed by this. Now, this is a very low pop count card. There's only 100, there's sub 200 of these things. Market Movers is showing 169. I don't know how up to date that is, because that does not update in real time like the prices do, but it's still a relatively low pop card. There's just not that many of them. So I asked around, and I said, does anyone know, like, did someone, a lot of times someone will, a group or, another YouTuber or a community member that has a much larger following will mention something that it's a good buy or whatever, and you'll see the prices take off, especially on this low pop stuff. And I asked around, and no one seemed to know, or they weren't saying that they knew of anything like that. So then I dug a little bit deeper, and I looked at this seems to be the more popular of his rookie cards. There's a lot more of these on the market, and this price. So let's go down here to the chart, or to the readouts. You can see the Prism went from a starting average of 575 to an ending average of 1200, up 100%, but his more popular Topps Chrome hardly moved. Now, I will say, this Topps Chrome has a bunch of auctions going on it right now, and I'm guessing, I'm going to keep an eye on these today. These all end this afternoon. I'm going to bet that they bust through this ending average of 550. In fact, I'd be shocked if they didn't. So anyways, I was trying to figure out what the hell happened with this Prism. So I went and looked at the sold eBay listings. So let's go back. This is almost 2 weeks. Buy it now, 550. Buy it now, 579. 579. 600. 579. Auctions were ending around 500. And you go back even earlier in July, they were going for around low 400s. Then all of a sudden, like I said, from the 15th to the 22nd, all these buy it now sell. Once again, this is a low pop card, so there's not a lot necessarily hitting the market at any given one time. There's only a sub 200 of these things, so the ones that are in people's hands are usually in their hands for a reason, and they're holding on to them. So I have heard of this happening, and I'm sure this happens in sports cards too, but in Magic the Gathering, you will hear of people attempting buyouts on cards. They will usually reserve list cards, and what reserve list cards, for those not familiar with Magic the Gathering, is a card that Wizards of the Coast, the company that makes Magic the Gathering, is no longer printing ever. They put it on a list and said they will never reprint this card. And these are sets usually from 20 or 30 years ago. So there's just not a lot of them in the wild to begin with because they're so old. They've been lost or destroyed over time, whatever. Or they've gone into collections that aren't coming back out again. So people will go and target cards that there's not a lot on the market. They will buy them all and then adjust the price. I'm not saying that's what happened here, but to me, this looks like some classic market manipulation, and that's exactly what someone's trying to do. Nothing's changed with Russell Wilson other than just the market going up. So from this card to go from auctioning for around high 400s to low 500s to all of a sudden people clicking buy it now for 580 on every single one posted seems a little strange. All right. Now we're going to get into the real crazy. So on the 23rd, these two, or 22nd and 23rd, these two sold. Each time this is slightly going up, because there's none on the market. So whoever's listing it, is putting it up at a slightly higher price. Fast forward to the 24th. 1500, 1500, same seller. Two different cards go almost instantly. And that seems strange, does it not? You're saying it jumped from 600 to 1500 overnight for no real reason other than that they traded for Jamal Adams? I'm not saying, but I'm just saying something looks fishy here. This was a $500 card forever. Someone starts buying them up. It starts creeping up into the 600s. Someone buys them up some more. All of a sudden, there's none left on the market. Okay. Then two hit the market simultaneously and sell for $1,500 each, the exact same amount. Looks like they sold within 2 minutes of each other. That seems a little strange to me. Now, if we go over here and look, there's only two listed on eBay right now, both at auction, and both have multiple days left. This one has a day and a half left on it. This one has almost 5 days left on it, going for $800 and $1,000 at auction. Seems a little strange, if you ask me. Seems a little strange. So, yeah, I just did some additional digging into that and found that interesting data, and I thought I would pass that on. This is not the most surprising thing in the world if it is indeed market manipulation. I believe this stuff probably happens more often than most people realize. And I'm assuming now that this Topps Chrome, like I said, is going to follow suit. Because when I saw this had gone crazy, I was then looking at his other cards to see if there was a buying opportunity there. And, you know, maybe there is on this Topps Chrome, but I just have a feeling these auctions are going to end higher than what the current baseline is. But I will be keeping an eye on that today. But just be careful out there, guys. When you see crazy price hikes like that for no real reason, like the Bol Bol one makes sense. He was getting hype. He played well. The market went crazy. Russell Wilson's in the off season. Nothing's happened. And all of a sudden his card triples in value in 24 hours. That should be a red flag to you to dig in and do some more research to see why. Like, what has happened? You know, like I said, did Gary Vee tweet about him or show him on an Instagram page or whatever? Or did, the Jeff from Sports Card Investor or PSA Collector or one of those guys that have huge YouTube channels, Pac-Man Cards, it's not usually his market, but you know, come out and say like, man, this Russell Wilson PSA 10 looked undervalued. But just when you see price movements like that, just ask some questions and do some clicking around. So that's all I got on that one. I just found that extremely interesting and wanted to show that to you guys. Let's talk about two quick ones real fast here. These are the last two, and we won't spend a ton of time on these because we've gone long. Ja Morant continues to go absolutely crazy. His PSA 10 Prism is now at around $560, $550, and is probably well on its way to $600. The interesting thing here is that the Optic is actually outpacing the Prism. Now, I don't think that's necessarily the case. I believe what happened was last week, the Prism went on a massive run because it was sub $400 there for a minute. You could get them from around $375, $400 like 2 weeks ago. And then it took off and went crazy to the new $560 point. And then I believe now this is the optics market correction coming in. The Prism went on the run. And as we've said even earlier in this video, when the Prism goes up, everything else follows. I believe the Prism made its jump, and this is the optic following suit. And then I expect both these cards to continue to go up, at least through the start of the playoffs, unless they would get bounced. If they don't make the playoffs, it would take a lot to go wrong, and that may cause it to flatten. I don't think his stuff will necessarily go down. But anyways, I continue to see Ja stuff go crazy. I would not be surprised if this card hits Depending on how he plays in the bubble games, if they make the playoffs, if they lock that in, I wouldn't be surprised if this hits like 750, $800 by the time the playoffs start. I could easily see that happening, depending on how he plays. And then the last one, good old Luka weekly check-in. I just like to follow the prices of this cards. I have a couple of the optics. I just think this has just been a fascinating rise over the last couple months with him. But his Prism PSA 10 has blown through $1,000. It is now at the mid 1100s and rapidly heading towards 1200. This card basically goes up 10 to 20% every single week, like clockwork. Eventually, that will come to an end, but for now, it's just churning right along, and the optic is following suit. This optic is now up to $650. I believe I've said for a while now, I fully expect this card to reach 1500 before the playoffs start. And I can see it going crazy if he actually makes a couple of rounds into the playoffs. I think the optic probably hits 1,000 by the time the playoffs start back up again, if he plays well in the bubble games, which he probably should. He looked good in a couple scrimmages. So, yeah, I see these two continuing to go up. If you want on the Luka train, every day that you wait is money that you're missing out on, because this card is going to keep going unless he gets hurt, which could happen. He has had a lot of quirky little injuries his 2 years in the league. Nothing significant, but a lot of ankle bruises, sprains, stuff like that. So, anyway. That's all I have for you guys this week, so we will catch you guys on the next one. As always, because I forget at the beginning of the videos, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We are rapidly approaching 300 subscribers. This channel is growing much faster than I ever thought that it would. So if you guys have any questions, drop them in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video and give me a sub if you're not already subscribed, so you guys see all the other nonsense that I am putting out there, and we will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.